So Ruth leads our student and community engagement at the, well, I would say it's a newly formed Africa Development Center. As many of you know, the Africa Development Center was opened May 2019. So it's been well over, a year and a half, right? And Ruth is part of that dynamic team, and she leads the student and community engagement, and she's going to basically be taking us into our next session around, the Microsoft Africa Development Center. So with that said, over to you, Ruth, and thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Mark. I'm in the process of sharing my screen. It's a little delayed. But as he said, my name's Ruth Farland, and I lead the Student and Community Engagement program at the Africa Development Center. I'm really here to talk to you about ADC and what we're doing in the community. So as you know, Microsoft as a whole has been around in Africa for quite some time, back in 1992, and it's not really until about 8 years ago, starting with the For Africa, the data center, the farm bees, and now ADC. Just last year, that we're really building a presence here in Africa, not just to sell products, but to build a community, bring in talents, and actually build products here with ADC. Now, ADC is set up in Nigeria and in Kenya, and we kicked off last year. We're only a little bit over a year old, but we're growing super fast. In fact, in Kenya, just about a month ago, we've celebrated our 100th hire in Kenya. So we're really growing fast, and in 2022, we hope to be in about 500 engineers. We have a lot of support from from the executives back in headquarters. This is the snapshot of the folks that are the sponsor for the Kenya site. I'm just going to breeze right through this so we can talk about the community side of things. So our focus, really, we have 3 pillars in ADC. We have the engineering, bringing in talent so that we can build awesome products that not only take into consideration the local environment, but also build it globally for the entire Microsoft world ecosystem. And we have the education side that we're targeting, and it includes the mentorship and so forth. And I'll go into a little bit detail after this. And then we're focusing on the community impact as well, setting up meetups and things like that, so that that we're here to stay. Now, in the student engagements or the student university, the education side of things, we're targeting it as a 2-pronged approach. We have the student engagements, and then we have the university engagements. And in the student engagements, it's actually our way of the grassroots approach, where we engage directly to the students without really worrying about what school they come from. So this is predominantly virtual, especially in the past year. And you may have noticed of programs such as Game of Learners, if you search that on the internet. And now we're hosting a student conference called the Microsoft Student Summit. That will be kicked off actually tomorrow. It's a 3-day event. But the idea here in the student engagement is to really partner with the student ambassadors. So you notice that I know 3 speakers ago, Josh, he's a student ambassador, and we actually work closely with Josh along with the other student ambassadors in Kenya and in Nigeria to put together our programs. And the idea is to really make it stick. So create programs that are sticky so that it's sustainable, it can outlive me. And with that, it's the game of learners. They're heavily involved. The student ambassadors are heavily involved behind it. And the summit, if you attend the summit for tomorrow and the following day, the people that are really planning that behind the scene are the student ambassadors. So a student-led effort. We're also spending a lot of support for their individual engagements. As Josh had mentioned earlier, part of being a student ambassador is that you have to engage the community, the student community, right? So what we do as ADC is to line up with their engagements and provide them support, whether it's through mentorship, through speakers, or even just swag. So that's what we're doing on the student engagement front. And then on the other side, in parallel to that, we are also engaging directly with universities. And this is a partnership in collaboration with For Africa and the education team. And the way this is we're trying to go into it as a one Microsoft and be able to partner with the universities in terms of the Microsoft recruiting from those universities, especially for internships, the mentorship part. So we're putting together mentorship that lines up with that university's program, and then providing a curriculum review. So a lot of the universities are always asking input as to how they can be a lot more relevant to the industry, and that's where we come into play. It's really very involved, and it requires a lot of hand holding with the university, but it's a wonderful effort, and in the end, it's the students and the faculty that really benefit. In the community side, and this is what we're calling community engagements, and this is really the industry side. So after graduation, you go and work, or you're a worker bee. You are now in our community side of the camp, and in that side, we are developing a cadence of monthly meetups. And the idea here, again, going back to making programs that are sticky and not just this one-off events here and there. And so it's not so much the big draw in the very beginning, but rather the gradual increase of followers. So we kicked off a couple months ago, we kicked off ADC Hour of Learning, which meets on second Wednesday of every month. And we also kicked off the Women and Allies, which meets every fourth Wednesday of every month. We use or we partner, we don't use, we partner with community influencers to help us set up the ADC hour of learning, for example. That's not really run by the ADC. We just provide the speakers. So we provide the speakers, the content, and so forth, but it's run by Frank of Azure Kenya. And the idea there is to really support the community and flourish, so that we're there to support you. Even swags and things like that, we're there for you as well. We use the Meetup platform. It's a pretty popular platform, so we use that pre-existing platform. Another part that we're also putting our focus on is the MVP. The MVP program. So for this is I'm saying this in a is one thing that we need to increase, because in Kenya we only have one, and the goal is to really triple that, for especially in particular in Kenya, but in general, in the African continent, we really want to increase the MVP. And I saw in the chat window earlier that, how do you transition from a student ambassador to the industry? And that is really the MVP program. So student ambassadors would graduate into becoming an MVP afterwards. And it's similar type of work, engaging the community. So we're really trying to line that up so that there are more MVPs out there in Africa. And then thirdly, we partner with our partners and other companies within the ecosystem. So in some of our programs that we're developing right now, for example, we are setting up a program that will allow other companies to recruit from this cohort. So we're trying to put together a cohort where we train them so that they're at the level of a Microsoft engineer, but we also invite other companies to recruit from this cohort. So they have the opportunity to choose whether to come to Microsoft or someone else. We also partner with the folks in the ecosystem for anything digital access. So whether it's USAID, NGOs, a lot of the talks is about just doing the fundamental things. So when I'm deploying programs out there, for example, one thing that I noticed immediately, especially with the game of learners, was that I can't really send this out without any additional support, because people lose power all the time, or they don't have access to the internet. So part of the support system that we had provided for game of learners was to provide the satellite. What is this? The D-Light Solar. So we partner with D-Light Solar to put the solar panels installed in the student's house so that they can participate in this 5-week hackathon that they're supposed to be engaging in. And we also provided MiFi devices, and that allowed us to have 100% participation for the entirety of the program, and we had no drop-offs, thank goodness. So it's these type of things that we were really talking to other organizations, our partners, to determine other programs that could help the fundamental issues that we're facing here in Africa. So, and those 3 fundamental issues are, just to get to our digital accessibility, right, is power, internet access, and devices. So that's on the third part of the community engagements that we're doing. And overall, I had mentioned a few times that we're doing the game of learners. We're putting out there Women and Allies meetup to bring in more women into the tech world, where I know there's a lot of words in here. I'll let you read that by yourself. But I just really wanted to highlight that we're working hard to bring in the community, involve them, get a lot of activities out there so that we can increase the digital digital access, or upskill any potential talents. Some of the game of learners, for example, the idea there is to make sure that students have hands-on coding experience. So not only for next year coming up, we're not only going to do the 5-week hackathon, like our Game of Learners season, but we're also doing Game of Learners clinics. And so there will be a lot of things that not only we involve the students directly, but also the universities. And on top of that, we really try to have a fun culture at Microsoft. And this is just some of the photos that we've collected the past year. So when I moved to Kenya, I was asked to run the first hackathon venue here. And as some of you know, probably, Microsoft hosts an annual hackathon that we do globally at the same time. There has never been really a venue presence in sub-Saharan Africa. So when the Garage team from the US found out that I was moving to Kenya, they had asked me to run the first venue ever in sub-Saharan Africa in Kenya, and this is us at the hackathon 2019. It's really loads of fun, and we try to provide that type of culture so that it fosters creativity and hopefully entice people to come work for us. And that's really is it for me, for you today. I'm going to stop sharing because I don't see my, there it is. I don't see myself, so I don't see where I'm going. I don't know if there are any questions. I know we're up for time, so I'm gonna hold it over.
Awesome. Ruth, thank you so much for that. That was super, super helpful and insightful. We actually had a really good question in YouTube that I don't want to make stuff up, so I figured you'd know. Say yes, it's awesome about the mentorship. What are you, or do you have any ideas around how the people who are providing mentorship can plug in with the students? Because there's so many ways to combine like professionals and students so that they can learn from each other. Are there any programs in Microsoft ADC that you do that with?
Yeah, so at ADC, what we do is we have actually a pool of mentorship. A lot of it we've instituted as part of the Game of Learners. So in the Game of Learners, yes, it was only 5 weeks at that point, but some of this stuff is what actually was Josh was talking about a couple speakers ago, that in the Game of Learners, for example, not only did each team had two coaches, a female and a male, throughout the entire program, but they also had coaches, mentors afterwards, whether it was the judges telling them how the project was going, or the winners, for example, get mentors from headquarters as well as ADC, and they get to have that session with them for a few months. So we line that up for them so that it's easier for the mentor as well as the mentee. And on top of that, what we actually do, and this is what we're trying to institute on the university level, is that for every mentor that we bring into the program, we actually mentors our mentor. So we train them before they get in front of the mentee to make sure that that mentorship time is as effective as is as really as effective as possible. And in the same token, we also make sure that the mentee understands that this is not just regular talk. This is getting, the necessary feedback that you need or what you want to learn from the mentor in this short duration. So we really try to teach both ends just to make sure that when they come together, that it's really efficient and effective.
That is awesome, Ruth. Thank you so much for sharing that. We have one more question. Someone was asking if we only have one MVP in Kenya and we want to triple that. Yay. So those of you watching, if you are interested in this technology, honestly, the best way is to become a student partner or an MVP, which is always the same process. Josh walked us through the process, so review the process. It really is choose an area of tech that you're passionate about, go upskill yourself, scale up your community, and then share what you've done. And have either a Microsoft employee or an existing MVP nominate you. But we're really looking to grow our MVP population in Kenya. In Nigeria, we do have 9 MVPs, I think, or maybe more. Many of the people who presented today are MVPs. So another one of you were asking, how do you become a speaker at conferences like this? And becoming an MVP is actually a really good way to become a speaker, and becoming a speaker is a good way to become an MVP. So one or both of these will work. So Deji, who just presented with chatbots, he's an MVP. Foyan, who talked about communities, MVP. Samuel, who did not electrocute himself, is an MVP. So many of the people you've heard from today, the reason we call on them to speak at our events is because they're part of our close family and friend circle in the Microsoft community. So join us, because then you're going to get voluntold for stuff too.